we'll just kind of start with who you are, what you do, and we'll just kind of chat.
Okay. Well, I'm Ashley. I own a waxing business. I've been on my own for September will be 3 years.
Impressive.
But I worked for a corporate company for like 10 years prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
And the company kind of like drilled into your head that like you can't do it on your own.
Well, yeah, the boss is always.
You know what I mean? I think a lot of girls in the beauty industry who work for corporate companies will understand that. And the boss that I had was awful. And there was one day my best friend and I had a really bad day, and we were like, we're just gonna do it.
Yeah.
And so, I started, well, it was actually 3 of us. So we started in like a small studio all together, and now we all have our own, like in the same building. I'm in Image Studios, like in Morrison Woods. So yeah, it's really cool. I've been in my own studio for like, I think since September, so that's relatively new, but it's been great. My only regret is just not doing it sooner, honestly.
I think that's with all of us. My painting company was like that. I was with the same company forever. I had it in my head that I couldn't do it on my own, and finally one day I'm like, well, I already have this other business, and I did it. And I've had that conversation with so many people since. And a friend of mine's a mechanic, and he went out on his own, and he was like, why didn't I do this? You realize that, yeah, it's just different than punching a clock for someone else.
It is. And it's like, well, at first I was like, oh, it's going to be so much less work. You know what I mean? And now it's so much more work, but it definitely is way more worth it. And it doesn't feel like work whenever you're doing it for yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can personalize it, you can make it yours, and it's really nice because like I do most of my advertising stuff on Instagram, so I can really showcase who I am. So I attract a lot of clients that are like me and I can get along with, whereas the place I worked at before, I had to wax whoever walked in the door, and a lot of times, you know, I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and it wasn't always fun.
That was the first thing I put on my website 16 years ago when I opened the school was check out other schools. The heart of the school is the instructor. I may not be for you. I've had people walk in that door and I can tell immediately we do not click. We just don't mesh. And it's not that there's anything wrong with them or anything wrong with me. We just don't mesh.
It's
and that is
vibe,
one of the best things about being an entrepreneur. And like you said, you work more, but it's not the same.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like I don't wake up like dreading going to work ever. It's always fun. And making your own hours is also a good plus. And I feel like humans are not meant to work just like 9 to 5. You know what I mean? It's very mundane. And
do you think that's one of the things you like about being self-employed is the fact that you could be like, you know what? I'm not going until noon. I'm not going to book anything on that day.
Yeah.
Because, I've had people before, well, hey, can you do this on a Tuesday? No. Why not? No, I just don't want to.
I think, well, starting off, I feel like I didn't realize that I could do that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's like, a learning process.
You have to like actually, like giving myself lunch breaks is like a newer thing for me. Because you feel like if you can, you should, but it's really easy to like overwork yourself. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'll be like, that day's going to be 70 degrees. I'm blocking my book off that day and I'm going to go enjoy it.
I've been self-employed for 16 years and I've always had, I don't like to say side hustle, but I've always had some type of entrepreneurial thing. Mm-hmm. And that is the thing that I'm still working on is saying no. Mm-hmm. Or I will block off like, oh, I'm not going to do this. And then I'll need to I'll be like, oh, I really need to talk to these customers. I need to do this. Next thing you know, I'm scheduling something. And that is a learning curve. But that I think that is what the majority of us that are entrepreneurs are addicted to is, yes, I might go up to the school on a Friday to do talks, but I chose to do that.
Right.
I wasn't told to clock in and go do it.
You had to be there, which I feel like I have really bad ADHD. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I have like, I don't know if executive dysfunction is the right word, but like when you're told to do something, it's like, I don't want to do it even more.
Yes. No, me too. Me too. Tell me to do something a couple times in a row and you will find out how long it takes me to never do it. Yeah.
So it's nice. Just, you know, you have to do it and you want to do it. And I feel like all my clients are like my friend. I mean, it's professional still, but you know what I mean? I feel like I walk in and I'm just like hanging out with my friends. And
do you find that a challenge sometimes?
No. No, I feel like waxing is a very like intimate experience. So people really, it's like a therapy session also. Mm-hmm. So you really get to know your clients on a very deep level. I've had some of my clients I've had for a decade.
Yeah.
So it's great because I mean some of them are like family. So yeah, it's never a bad time. That's for sure.
That's good. I always find that I've always wondered. So as my businesses grew, one of the things that weirded me out was we got to a size. I was off Jungerman somewhere, and a guy come up to me. I stopped. I was talking to my dad, and this guy come up. And he's like, "Oh, he's painting my house." He was just kind of messing with me, and just old guy stuff. I had no clue who he was. My sales rep had bid the house. My crews had painted the house. Like my office manager had taken care of the details. But he saw me in my truck. He's like, "You painted my house." I had no clue who he was, and that bothered me. That's one thing I love about the martial arts school is I know all the people. I know everybody. Right. I know the kids. I have that connection. I did not really, and I didn't like that as the painting company grew, that once we got to a size, I actually didn't meet the customers.
They knew you, but you didn't.
Yeah, and I thought that was weird, and I know that's something that mentally with me held me back from being more successful in that industry because it did really bother me.
Yeah.
And a psychologist could probably say this or that about it, but it's one of the things I like about the martial arts school is even if I have, say Edgar steps up and runs a warm up in the class, I'm still on the floor, I'm still there with everyone. Maybe it's just a control freak in me, I don't know, but I do like that.
You spend so much time with each kid and the parents are there the whole time, so you do see their faces for 45 minutes at least. But I could definitely understand being like, "Oh, you know me, but I don't know you."
Yeah, it was just odd. Yeah. It was just I remember sitting there in the truck after he drove off being like, that's going to be a problem for me because I didn't like that. I realized as I grew and scaled and stuff, I liked more of the solopreneur lifestyle, just a couple employees. I really didn't want anything big. My original plan was to have like 100 painters and, paint all over the state, maybe even start. We had looked at, I have a lot of friends in Kansas City area, so I'd even looked at maybe starting a second location up there. So it's weird, but with what you do, you get to know the people, you get to they're almost like family because you do know them, you do know their problems. There's so many kids at school, I know so much that it's a great feeling.
It is. Yeah. I think the personalization and it's nice because whenever you own your own business like that, you thought you wanted to do that, but it's great because you can just pivot and do something else. And it's almost like a creative outlet also.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I think that's been an overwhelming thing too. I've noticed with entrepreneurs I talk to is the ADHD part, and that being able to do what you want, that defiance disorder almost of, I don't want to be told what to do. Mm-hmm. But I mean, you have to learn to be to a point because you're dealing with a customer, but being your own boss, making your decisions, I think is very important to a lot of us that do go that way instead of the corporate job. Do you had said, with ADHD stuff, is there, what type of stuff have you kind of, noticed with that and being an entrepreneur? Like, are there struggles sometimes with it? I know I have that.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I have some days where I can do like all the things. And then I have some days that I'm like, I have zero motivation, or like, I'm sure you have days where it's like, there's so many tasks.
I was going to say that ADHD paralysis because there's just so much.
And so I just sit and I'm like, okay, I don't even know where to begin.
To-do list. I'll write a to-do list and sometimes I'll be like, well, that was my thing for today. Write the to-do list for tomorrow because I'm still overwhelmed.
I write the to-do list and I literally don't do any of the things and do everything else.
Oh, see, no, me, I'm the opposite. If I write the to-do list, I have to finish the to-do list.
Oh, that's good.
No, sometimes it's bad because I'll be like, by the time classes start, I'll have already done so much that I'm like, whoo, I wore myself out.
I feel like I call it like I have so many spoons for the day. Yeah. You know what I mean? And someday I wake up and I'll have like 8 to start the day, but then like by 2:00 I've got 1 left. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then it varies so much. But yes. I do feel like owning my own business has helped a lot with managing the symptoms and stuff.
How's that?
Just by not more, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, my days just flow easier. Yes. You know what I mean? It's not like you have to get up at 6:00 and you have to be there at 8. And I feel like
it takes that a little bit of that. You almost trade one anxiety for another because you don't have that anxiety, but yet at the end of the month or the end of the day, it is on you because it's your business. Mm-hmm. But you don't have that like, I've got to rush to do this right now because my boss is going to be on me. You have those flexibilities built in.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, makes sense. That's something I've always noticed with it. Like I've told people at this point, I don't think I could go back to punching a time clock for someone else. I've tried once because I had martial arts school in the evening. I was like, I'll do a sales job during the day, supplement my income because I've always had done sales. Yeah, I think I made it 2 weeks. I was miserable. I hated it. I hated everybody about it. Hey, can I take a lunch break? I was like, it was just, at this point, there's no way I could ever go back.
No, I really feel like once you do it, there's no, I think about sometimes, because like for the winter, it's a little rough for waxers, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll just go back for the winter or something. And then I was like, wait, what am I talking about? I could never, ever do that.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for having so much time there, because I do feel like that really contributed to me being able to run my business well now, as far as just verbiage and taking new clients and all of that. But
well, the corporate entities have a lot of great things, and you could probably learn a lot from them with procedural or ways to handle different things that probably help than if you just went, I'm going to do this tomorrow. Like, you know, and I've been there with other jobs I had where we did training or different things that I pulled from later on, that I was happy that I had it, because it did teach me certain things.
For sure.
So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, there's so many different hair types, bodies, you know what I mean? And I feel like there I saw there's nothing that someone could bring me that I would be like, oh, I don't know if I can do this.
Yes.
So I'm definitely grateful for that. But yeah, I could never go back.
No, and I think that's what attracts so many of us, is we're just wired differently for it. That shift work, that 9 to 5 type thing. Like that was one of the struggles I had with the painting company, is as it grew, like my guys would clock out at the end of the day and I'd see them the next morning, and they went home, they drank a beer, they hung out. That was it. And I'm like, shoot, I went and taught martial arts all night and did this and did that. And like, I've never connected well with people that were accustomed to just doing the 9 to 5. Nothing against them, but I've never connected with that because I've never, my head is never wrapped around it, and I never understood it.
Yeah, it's just, you want different stuff out of life. Some people are okay with that, but
yeah,
I like having more variety and more freedom. And like, I feel like at my old job, if I wanted to take a vacation, they would laugh in my face. You know what I mean? And now it's like, my clients are like, go do that. You deserve it.
Now, do you ever look back and think, like, because I've always done this, where I look back at when I was younger and I think about stuff and I'm like, you know what? I always did kind of have that entrepreneurial bug, or always had a hustle, or always was like the one that went over and above at work. Like, do you ever feel that when you look back, that like there were like maybe hints that you should be
like
an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I definitely always, well, because I pretty much started waxing like after I graduated high school. I went to aesthetic school almost immediately. I did art school for a little bit, but that didn't last very long.
Okay.
And then it was always in the back of my mind, like, gosh, I want to do that so bad. But they really, like I said, drill it into your head that like you can't do it.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to, and I always did go above and beyond there. But I feel like whenever you go above and beyond and you work for someone else and they really take advantage of you, you know what I mean? I feel like the people who slack, like if something needs to be done, they're not going to even ask them. They're just going to ask
No, they just go to you.
And so you just get overworked and then you get burnt out, and it's just like a vicious cycle.
Do you think that being in an, I don't want to say a field, but in an atmosphere like that, probably say you wanted to scale up and do more with what you do, like would make you a better boss or a better partner in business because of, like you said, the other place drilled in your head, you can't do it by yourself?
I think so, for sure. Because at the like corporate chain that I work for, it's mostly male owned, and none of them are in the beauty industry at all. They're only in the business side. So they have certain expectations out of you that are just not realistic at all. Yeah. So I feel like my best friend and I eventually in the future would love to open like not a chain by any means, but like a bigger place and hire like a few waxers. Yeah. But since I've been there, I totally understand. So I definitely think I could be a much better boss than my old one was. Yeah,
well, you'd have a better connection to it because you've done it.
Exactly.
Yes, I've with the painting company, a lot of the painters that worked for me over the years, that was one thing they would say, is it was cool to actually have a boss that had been a painter and built the business up, because I understood that shit happens.
Right.
Mistakes happen, or I would come to a job site and diagnose like, okay, yeah, we're going to need to do this. We're going to need that. That's not really going to work. Whereas they were used to being, some of them with bigger corporate companies, where they would call in and some office manager would tell them that they need to get it done, that had never held a paintbrush in their life. So it does make
unrealistic expectations.
Yes, it does. I feel like it makes you better at it, being in that position and understanding it and walking the walk.
For sure. Yeah, and then being able to also help them with any struggles that they come across, because like I said, my old boss had no experience in it. So if I needed help, it was kind of just like, figure it out on your own.
Yeah, and that's something I've always liked. Like, I would show up on job site, walk the guys through things, do it. Or like, I even tell the students at school, I'll never ask you to do something I can't do. Like, if we're going to work on a kick and I'm going to teach you to do it, I've done the kick, I can do the kick. I tell people a lot, like, I took a little bit of time off at one point because of a job. I wasn't at the school all the time, and I tightened up, and I lost some of my flexibility because I'd done it since I was a little kid. I could do things at 19, 20 years old that a lot of people couldn't because I never lost that flexibility. When I did take a little time off and I had to stretch back out and I had to refigure some things out because I hadn't done it in so long, I think it made me a better teacher because I understood a 30-year-old adult getting into it. Whereas when I was 20, I didn't understand my 35-year-old adults are like, oh, I'm sore, this and that. And, when I went out into the real job force and took some time off of martial arts and then would come in and try to train like some of the students did, I was like, oh, this is different.
Now I understand.
Now I get it, because they used to get mad at me because I would be just like, no, just pick your leg up, jump, spin, do this kick. And be like, I can't. And then when I went out into that, I was like, okay, now I was able to connect the dots better.
Right, because you never lost that flexibility from when you were a kid.
Yeah, no, I could just still do the stuff.
Yeah.
I could just do it. I don't know their way to like phrase it. Like, it was just easy for me. But then when I did take that time off, I was like, oh, okay, it made me a much better teacher.
Yeah, that makes
now,
sense.
Had you always wanted to get into like the aesthetics, like beauty school, like, getting into waxing and that? Or is that like, how did that all come about for you?
No, I don't even remember what I originally wanted to do. I did like art school for a little bit, and then I did like dental school, and I was just like, no. And then I think I went to aesthetic school because I thought it sounded easier than like doing hair, and I didn't even know waxing was a thing. Like, I just wanted to do like makeup or facials or whatever, and then I was good at it like from the beginning, which I feel like people think that it's a lot easier than it is, but a lot of people just don't get it, like as far as laying the strips and pulling them. And I got hired at that corporate chain. It was like the first place that hired me, and then I excelled a lot, and it just kind of fit perfectly for me.
Yeah. And you enjoy it, obviously.
I do, yeah. And I just feel like the girls, like, in the aesthetic field versus, like, cosmetologists, it's just a lot more, like, of a chill environment.
Okay.
And it just, I was just always good at it. And I like it because the services are pretty quick, so you can get, like, a lot of people in a day.
Well, yeah, I would think with facials, some of that stuff, like different things could probably drag on quite a bit time-wise.
Yeah, usually, like, an hour and a half. And it's, dark and relaxing, and I feel like I would just want to like fall right asleep. Whereas waxing, it's bright, you have loud music on, you're talking, and it's just a much different vibe. Yeah,
no, that makes sense. And it's good that you kind of seen that too, that this is, okay, I want to go this direction with it, and here's why. Because I feel like I meet people all the time that are just still doing the same thing. Like, how old are you?
32.
32. Okay, so how long have you been you said 3 years on your own?
September will be 3 years.
September will be 3 years. So that's awesome to go out on your own at that age, and to be doing it. I started my first business at 28. And it was weird because most of the people around you aren't doing that. When you're late 20s and you're going out and going to, fend for yourself, a lot of people aren't doing that. A lot of people are afraid to do it. I meet so many people that are in their 50s that are finally doing it, and they're scared to death.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's terrifying.
Yeah, no, I'm thankful I did it when I was younger, though. Yeah. That's something but it's a weird little disconnect from those around you sometimes, too, because they're doing the 9 to 5 and you're doing your own thing. And sometimes people think it's easy, but it is scary.
It's terrifying. Yeah. Like the first year, there were so many times that I was just like, gosh, was this the biggest mistake I've ever made? But luckily, I mean, it grew quick. I'm still growing, but I mean, it grew. It got me on my feet pretty quickly, and I'm super grateful for it.
You're in a niche where you're offering a service, you're getting paid for a service. It's not like there's a trick or there's a gimmick to it. It's and it's probably really because of how intimate you are being. I mean, people are naked. Like, it's word of mouth too, because when they tell someone, just like with martial arts, I'm working on people's kids, word of mouth is huge. When a customer comes in, they're like, oh, a friend of ours comes here. It's a very easy pitch for them to get into classes.
For sure.
When I would say, well, a lot of what you do is word of mouth. You don't need to be making like wild, corny Instagram and TikTok videos to get people in. It's people coming to you and like, wow, she was really great. She was professional. This was awesome. Check her out. I would think that's big word of mouth.
Yeah, I definitely think a lot of people have had not great wax experiences. And so whenever they have a good one, it's a lot easier to like remember to tell people, you know what I mean? I always hear like people are always going to tell like their bad experiences and they're not as often going to share their good ones. But I feel like waxing is kind of an exception of that, because I think the bad ones stick out so bad that when they finally get a good one, they're like, oh my gosh.
That's going to be shared, hanging out with your friends, talking, not on a Google review either. You're in a different type of business there where when someone's wanting to get a waxing service done, they're not going to probably Google it as much as they're going to post on Facebook and ask their friends. Right. You know, hey, who do you guys recommend? Who have you been to? Oh man, I went to, it was great. All these things. Like, I think that is what's going to bring your business, which is what's great about it. It's your bedside manner, you know, that really helps take it off.
Yeah, it feels really nice. There's like a couple of like Facebook groups I'm in that are like women groups for like St. Louis, and I see people post all the time like, where do I go to get a wax? And I always see my name pop up. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's really nice.
And it's such a rapport builder, too. When a customer comes in and you talk to them, there's already a level of trust built there to make them much more comfortable.
Referred me, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great.
When we grew the painting company, I got to a size where I started finally running ads after years of being in business. And it was a shock for me to start going on bids where people knew nothing about the company. And I was having to explain to them that I owned the business, that we had this many crews, I had done this, we had the red vans, blah, blah, blah. Because up until that point, everybody was word of mouth and they already knew. So I didn't have to do that. I would just go in, talk to them about the paint job and move on. And I realized that value of having a customer that already knows and sought you out, or has a good friend that there's already that rapport built.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like doing ads is like nowadays, most people do like Instagram, like you said, the corny reels and TikToks and stuff like that, which I do those. But
those are fun. There's nothing wrong with them.
But they are probably like my least favorite part of my business, like having to do that to like get your name out there and stuff. And ads are so expensive. So word of mouth is free and it's real. And I feel like it spreads your name a lot quicker.
I believe so too. And I will say that the ads are not getting any cheaper. I've finally stepped away and stopped running. I don't really run a lot of ads at the Taekwondo school, but I did for a couple months. And this last month, I was like, I'm done. I was like, I went to boost a post for one of our workshops for 1 week, and the suggested ad spend was $1,600 for that week.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I was spending a couple months there. I spent $5,000-$6,000 to get more people into the workshops. I was like, I'm just not doing it. I'm going to slow my growth rate down. The school's full. Like it's not like full to capacity, but we're good. I don't need to, but I notice the ad spend is just going up and up.
You're super creative with your advertising though. The Valentine's.
Oh, that was fun. That wasn't even my idea. It wasn't even my idea.
Shoot, I want to do that.
No, I actually forget to do those. That's big in the martial arts world. And every year I forget. And I'm with this group called Rise. And one of our coaching calls, they're like, hey, guys got your Valentine's ready? And I'm like, oh, it's the first time in 16 years I've done them. I'm like, oh, I finally get to do them.
That was so smart.
Yeah, next year we're going to make like really nice ones. And I'm going to buy better candy because I really didn't like the Dum-Dums. I wanted these really cool heart-shaped suckers. But I didn't know how many of the kids would really want them. Like, I didn't know if people would be like, no, it's good. We'll just buy some at Walmart. I hadn't done it before. So I was like, well, let me go cheap this year and see how it does. Next year, I'm actually going to get really nice two-sided because Vistaprint will actually make you really nice ones. And I'm going to buy a better because the suckers I wanted were 60 cents a piece. They weren't cheap for the fact that I made 2,000 of them up.
Right.
But I really want to go all in on it next year because I think it's a really cute idea. I want to do little bit nicer ones. And I want to order them with a cutout in them to hold the suckers. I want to make them a little nicer.
Yeah.
But I thought
so smart.
That was a fun one. That was fun to do and see the kids actually get excited about them. I'm like, oh, that's really neat. So yeah, they were all. I was like, okay, cool. We're gonna really, because I'm really one of those like go all in on stuff, and sometimes I'll do it and I'm like, oh, that was a waste. Because stuff will fall flat. So those are fun. But no, with what you do, you're going to get those word of mouth people are going to help so much. And then you've got like a trusted customer. It's a much better feeling than trying to like sell someone on what you do. I've never liked that feeling.
It feels icky.
Yes, of just trying to like convince them that this is good for, this is good, you're going to like it, especially like you said, a lot of people have had bad experiences. Mm-hmm. That is very common with what I do as well. People have had a bad experience. They walked into a dojo and my parents did put me in martial arts for years because the first dojo they walked in, the guy's like, we'll make him a killer. My dad was very worried. My dad, my brother, my siblings all have bad tempers. So my dad was worried about me and my fascination with martial arts because he didn't want to make my temper worse or train me to fight and then me have a bad temper, which it did not do. But the first dojo he walked in, the guy ran his mouth. And so my dad, it took like 5 years for me to get him to put me back into martial arts.
Oh, wow. He was like, this is exactly what I don't want.
The guy literally said all the things my dad was looking for him not to say.
Yeah.
And so when you have people that have a bad experience like that, it is very hard to get them past it.
For sure. Yeah, especially with wax. And it's just like they don't want to talk about it. And you know what I mean? So like I'll leave my cards places and stuff. And if the server or wherever I am wants to ask about it, then I'll talk about it. But I never try to like push it.
No, you can do that too much. It's better to do stuff that's passive sometimes, just depending on your business. If you've got a bunch of employees that you got to keep busy, then you got to be a little different. But when it's you and you're booked and you're comfortable where you're at, you can grow organically and enjoy it.
Yeah, that's exactly.
What type of hobbies do you have outside of doing that?
Mostly like introverted hobbies. I like to play my Switch and read books and hang out. I have 2 dogs that drive me insane, but I like to hang out with them. And Wyatt and I like to go to the movies a lot.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he just saw Captain America. It was
Sweet.
his first Avengers movie.
Oh, yeah? How do you like it?
He liked it. He's like, I wish that I could just watch the fighting parts. Like, I think there's just a lot of dialogue for him.
Yeah. So I haven't seen the new one yet. I haven't even seen the trailer for it yet.
It was good.
Was it? That's good. They really go over and above on those.
They do. Yeah, I love all the Marvel movies, really.
What type of books do you read?
A lot of like horror, thriller books. Right now I'm reading The Butcher Games, which is like a sequel of Butcher and the Wren, which is like kind of gives like Dexter vibes a little bit. Yeah, I like a lot of horror. I love Halloween.
Couldn't tell the fact you wore all black.
Yeah.
I never could have guessed.
Yeah.
Would not have thought that one in a million years. No.
Wyatt's a Friday the 13th baby too, side note. So,
really?
He loves Halloween too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Stacy at the front desk of school absolutely loves Halloween.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, last year, one of my rise calls, Erin's like, make sure you get your decorations out. She's like, we get to do decorations? I was like, fuck, she heard that. I hate I hate clutter.
Yeah.
They put clings on the window, and every time I drive through the parking lot to pull around back, I was like, oh, I hate those clings.
There's not a lot of places to put decorations in there, I feel
No, there's not. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. I just can't. I don't. My wife has started buying them for the house. I'm like, what happened to you? She's like, I don't know. She's like, this is weird. I hate them. And I'm kind of anti any corporate holiday, but I would say Halloween is fun. I like handing out candy to the kids. I was really excited this year because I've noticed a big cutback on trunk or treats. Mm-hmm. So I did notice a big uptick in trick-or-treaters this year, and it was a lot of fun. I talked to a lot of kids at the house. I purposely sat in our garage. Our whole garage is shelved up with my children's, all their martial art trophies and stuff, and we have a padded floor in there for them to train when we're at home.
That's cool.
It's so silly because I live 5/10 of a mile from the school. Like, we can go up there anytime we want. We literally walk up there, ride our bikes up there. But we set a dojo up in the garage to practice, just to give them, just because it's like, hey, we're sitting around the house, let's walk out in the garage. So we sat out there for Halloween this year, and it was a lot of fun talking to everybody. And
yeah, I feel like the last few years have been like a flop with trick-or-treaters. So
they really have.
Yeah.
No, they really have. But this year I noticed with a big decline in trunk-or-treats that we had a lot more trunk-or-treaters. I was really excited about that. I thought that was cool because I don't want to say they should get rid of trunk-or-treats, but I think it kind of ruins the whole trick-or-treating of going house to house and getting together with your friends and walking around.
Or you just like stand in this long line for so long, and they're cool. It's cool to see like how people decorate the trunks and stuff, but I'd much rather see how they decorate their houses.
Yeah, I like that idea of going back to that. And it seemed like more people did that this year.
Yeah.
Now, do you ever read any business books or personal development books or anything like that?
No, I should, but no, it's hard with my ADHD. It's hard for me. Like if the first couple,
I do audio.
I do need to do audio. I do a lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
But it's hard. Like books, if I'm not interested in the first like 2 pages, then I can't.
It's hard, and personal development ones are hard. There's a lot of them that are out there. People are like, oh man, you've got to read this one. It's so great, and I can't. There's a few of them I've tried physically reading or listening to, and they have to have a really good story. There's a handful of people out there that are really good at it, that have wrote some really good ones. This sounds arrogant sometimes. I don't find that I learn from the books, but I don't really read them for the learning. I read them for the fact that I'm about to finish one called, I've got ADHD. I've got 4 going right now.
Oh gosh.
I'm finishing on Audio Creativity Inc., which is the story of Pixar. Which is amazing book, super interesting. The guy's got a little bit of a lisp, so it's a little hard to get past sometimes because you can tell like when it's later in the day and he's getting tired when he's reading it because it gets a little worse. But super interesting because it's when they get into business stories, you'll be like, and then they'll start talking about one of the movies, and it's like, oh, I remember that movie, and it's pretty good. And then there's one called Undressed, and it's about a salad dressing company, but a lot of the struggles he's went through are things I've went through on a smaller level to where I relate to it. And so it's almost refreshing when you see people that are like really successful and you read their book. It's like, oh yeah, I went through that same stuff.
Yeah.
I always recommend to anyone that is in that entrepreneurship world to find some of them, and it's hard to find them, that you can connect with in a way, because it does help you, like if you are in one of those like, yes, this month's a little rough, and then you read about it, you're like, oh wow, like Shoe Dog, which is Nike, the story of Nike, super interesting, great book, but when you listen to everything he went through in there, you're like, whoa, that dude went through all those struggles like that, like just one huge roadblock after another, and it turned out to be this huge company.
Right.
Same thing with the Creativity Inc. one, like all the stuff they went through. It's inspiring when you read that, because you're like, wow, I struggled at this small level. I had like 4 employees that were upset. This guy had 1,200. It puts things into perspective.
Yeah.
For you. And you can find them about anything. I'm trying to rack my brain. I got a couple hundred of them at home.
I was going to say, you should make like a list of ones that you do recommend.
I do. I've got one. So I wrote a book last year.
You wrote one?
Yeah, I wrote one on top of everything else I told you I did. I wrote a book too, and I was building a business to go around and speak and teach painting, like teach people how to build painting companies. Because there's a million guys that teach coaching for martial arts. I'm not really interested in it. I wanted to teach it for painters because I built the painting company to over $1 million a year in 18 months. I didn't even have a Google listing. I did it all word of mouth.
Oh, wow.
And we were not even on Google, because I had a guy write me a bad review on the Taekwondo schools page. And I was like, what a moron. And I was going to send him the link I was going to be a smart ass and send him a link to the Boyer painting one and be like, hey, dumbass, at least write the negative review on because his review was, in my contract, it states that if you don't pay and I have to sue you, you have to come to Lincoln County. And he wanted me to take that part out. He said, make it sporting. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to paint for you. You're literally telling me to make it easier. Like
you to not pay me.
That you're not going to pay me. Yeah. And so he wrote me a bunch of bad reviews everywhere. How do you word it? Failure to basically work with the customer. I was being hard-headed or something. And I'm like, no, you literally said you're not going to pay. Like, I was at lunch that week at the Rotary meeting with my attorney, and I slid in my phone. I'm like, this is what the dude wants me to do. As my attorney, what do you think? And because he had just put all this boilerplate in there, and he started laughing. He goes, tell me you're not going to pay your bill without telling me you're not going to pay your bill. Right. He's like, no, don't paint for this guy. Don't be an idiot. I'm like, I'm not going to. But I put a list in the back of my book on books, but I'm working on redoing the book on like restructuring my thoughts towards teens, because I speak around, I've got 7 speaking events this month, but it's all kids and teens. And so I'm wanting to redo the book to resonate more with them. I wrote it from a POV of as an adult entrepreneur, and I want to structure it more to like helping these kids in life. Like I've been working on redoing the chapters and how I want to refocus the book to help kids. Because I started doing a set of children's books, but basing them after all my instructors at the school. So like Emily, that's always in class,
cool.
There's one on, I've wrote a 10-page book or 15-page book for kids, but it's all about Emily. It's using her as a storyboard, and my goal is to have each of them help me with it so they would be co-authored. So before they graduate high school, they would be a published author. I thought that was kind of a cool thing. Yeah, I just lost the free time to work on it because I've got my one hiccup is I want to find an illustrator that can make the character look like them. Okay. Like I want it to look like the younger version of them too, like because in my head when I'm writing them and doing it, that's what I'm thinking. I think it'd be a lot of fun, but I'll bring you a book because I got a couple in mind. I think it'd be kind of cool for you. I've been trying to do that with the podcast, like have a book for people, but I don't really know until we get talking, like what would be a good one.
Right. And
I've gotten up to, like I literally went to bid a house the other day and they're getting ready to move and they're like, oh, you want any books? I'm like, I'm good. Because I just saw a couple mysteries and nothing I was really into. Because I like legal thrillers. And I was, I should have been an attorney. Like, I love a book about an attorney outsmarting everybody and winning.
I was going to say, what is a legal thriller?
Yeah, it's like attorneys, like it's court cases and stuff, but like they investigate too. Okay. But I love it when it's from that perspective. Like I always joke because before I got really heavy into wanting to be in martial arts, I wanted to be a lawyer. And my dad's like, that's a lot of schooling there, bud. And that's how he turned me off from it because I hated school. And I was like, I don't know, but like even my wife now, like I'll get my teeth sunk into something, or we'll even watch a good legal movie, and I'm like, yeah.
You're a lawyer in another life.
That's what she told me. She's like, you probably should have followed that. I'm like, I just freaking love it. And when she even sees one of them and how they behave, sometimes she'll be like, yeah, yeah, I could see you really enjoying that. But it's learning kind of what works for people. But I will say, as like an entrepreneur, it's a fun thing to go down. It's great to have your books that are your escape. So like I said, I'll do legal thrillers like when I just want to listen to something different. I don't want to be like surrounded with business stuff all day. I love that. What are some podcasts that you like?
All like true crime.
Okay,
podcasts.
Crime Junkies?
Crime Junkies, Morbid, Sword and Scale, The Deck.
I haven't heard of those. I heard Crime Junkies. What was the one? Do you ever listen to Mr. Ballin?
No.
So there's a guy, he was a Navy SEAL. He started telling stories online and it took off. And it's called Mr. Ballin. My kids and I have listened to every single one of them and he mixes it. There's medical mysteries, there's horror. It's super cool. And it's like the girls on Crime Junkies. I used to listen when they first came out. He just has a knack. Like the girls just tell a good story. Yeah. He just has a knack for a good story. They're all about 45-minute episodes. Okay. But I love his, and it's really cool. He's got a lot of YouTube content. I don't know. He just has a way of telling it, and then he'll like pause for a minute, and then he'll like recap the episode of like how it all ended. But a lot of them are murder, missing persons. It's the medical ones are actually really interesting on like weird diseases over the years or people having dead bodies in their apartments. Like it's odd, but they're really interesting. My kids love them and they're clean. They're not graphic enough that I feel weird with my kids listening to. Okay. You know, it's something that when we travel to tournaments or something, they're like, hey, will you put Mr. Ballin on? And we'll pop them on.
Ballin?
A-N. I'll show you when we're done. It's, because it's actually his name. It was, I think the story goes, his name is John B. Allen. And everybody kept emailing him Mr. Ballin because they didn't realize it. So he just stuck with it because that's not his name.
That's pretty funny.
Because my kids actually told me that they found a YouTube clip of him explaining his name. And I was like, oh, that's how he got that? Because I had seen other stuff of his. I just thought that was a pen name. I just blew it. I didn't like research it. So yeah. Now you've got tattoos. Is that something you've always been into?
Yeah. I think I started getting tattooed when I was like 16. Yeah. It's been a while since I've gotten any, but I found this guy who does like single needle. And like I have all traditional, but then I got single needle and now I'm like, well shoot, I want.
What's the difference of single needle?
Like this is all really thick, you know? And like he does these like really small.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
Yeah. So
that's really cool.
I want more of those, yeah.
That's cool. So who are some of the artists you go to?
His name is Apache Colin. Okay. He's like downtown St. Louis. A lot of my other ones were from a tattoo artist in Alton, who I will not name, who just had a lot of accusatory things. Yeah. So that kind of sucks.
There was a bunch of those guys there was a bunch of different studios down in
the Grove. Yeah, it was right around that time.
Yeah, I think, no, that's why that's familiar. I was just talking to Wyatt's dad about that. We were talking tattoos at the Lego night.
Yeah, him and I went to the same
Okay, yeah,
place.
that was it, because we were talking about, because he's got some from Wally.
Okay.
Wally B. Wally's done a bunch of mine too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we were talking about that because we were chatting at the Lego night because he was up there, and we had 55 kids show up, 54 kids show up. Yeah, it was huge. We've been finding, I've got some really cool ideas coming up too for those. Stacy and I have been putting our heads together and really looking into some like different things to do to have like, I'd like to have a parent night out thing every month.
Yeah.
But no, on tattoos, I love tattoos. I'm going to start getting my fingers touched up and some of mine are getting a little bit older, but I haven't had anything in a while. I need to finish this one. But
I feel like they hurt more the older you get, though.
They do.
You know what I mean?
They do. I've talked to my artist, Jason. It's my whole back's done. Jason and I were discussing that as we get older, it does. And I'm like, you'd think it'd go the other way. I was like, I don't know why it does that, but they do. They get more painful.
Yeah.
I completely and utterly believe that they do hurt more.
I have an outline on my knee, and
I've seen that.
I did the outline, and I was like, I'll come back for the shading. That was 4 years ago. I still have.
I've had many a conversation with tattoo artists about that. I'm like, how many times does that happen? They say it happens all the time. Because when my chest has got a big owl, and when Jason was doing it, it was in the summer, and we had outlined, I think we shaded one side, and then he's like, let's do color today. So we started putting color in the one side. So this side looked half done. And I told him, like, every time we went somewhere, like I went to the pool with the kids, I felt like I need to tell people, like, I'm not bitching out. I'm just not done. Like, I am finishing it because it is such a painful area.
Yeah.
I kept telling him, like, dude, it's messing with me. I don't want to take my shirt off. So I want people to be like, oh, dude, quit halfway through. Like, no, I'm halfway through. I have not quit yet. We're good. I'm going to finish because that's what it looked like. Because you see people with half done, but that's very common. I want to get my whole leg done. I've got an idea for a leg, but I know that knee and then like inside thigh, that's going to burn. I could I think the outline took like 30 minutes and I was tapped out. But I have like my thigh done and I think that took like 4 hours. But I got that when I was, I don't know, 20. Yeah. And I sat the whole time just fine. Yeah. But nowadays, no. See, I didn't start until I was like 26 maybe. And my first one, that was a long time after that before I got more. And then once I started doing, Jason did my portraits, my kids' portraits for me, and then I just went from there. I honestly, this is the longest I've been without a session. I went a couple of years with at least every other month doing something. And my back took us quite a while. My whole back is done. And I've got one coming up with my friend Krista.
Where do you go?
So I normally go to Four Corners in Wentzville, Jason Reynolds. But then my friend Krista Wagner, she was a guest on a podcast. She's out of Alchemy. She did I'm a great speaker, and then she's doing a cross for me 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We're gonna see how that goes. I'll be up here. So yeah, see how tender that is. Yeah. But I just love them. I feel like it's her and I were talking about this. I actually just painted her living room yesterday, and we were talking about like the ADHD and the tattoos and the impulse control and entrepreneurship and all that, because she was a guest on the podcast a couple weeks ago. And we were kind of joking about how it seems to all kind of fall hand in hand. Do you think it helps you or hinders you?
ADHD? Mm-hmm. I feel like a little bit of both, maybe. Yeah. But I feel like it makes me me. So yeah, I guess I don't really think about not having it, really.
When I meet entrepreneurs that don't have it, they're like, I just do this. And then I'm like, wow, that must be so boring. Like,
it's so crazy to me that people just like wake up and just like do stuff without thinking about it. Because I'll wake up and be like, okay, first I gotta like do this and this, but I can't do this until I get, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's just like have you gotten to the point where you set yourself like certain routines? Yeah. I have to. Otherwise I'll discombobulate.
Yeah, I shut down. Yeah. I shut down. My routine's been thrown off because of the cold weather, and I'm still like, I'm getting back at it, but I'm not quite 100%. And I can tell on the days when I get up, like this morning I had to get some stain for one of the crews painting. And so I didn't do my normal morning routine today, and it threw me off. Mm-hmm. And because my whole day is all over the place today. With my meetings are all weird. Like the whole day is weird today. And it's like, I got to work through it. Whereas like other people are just like, oh yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, huh? Yeah.
It's so crazy. Or people who like lay down at night and just go right to sleep.
Yeah.
Like, they don't sit there and think about everything they've said for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I love the fact, though, that social media and so many people of us talk about it.
Yeah.
Because I always thought I was weird. I always thought I was very weird. I'd get in, like, I'd have a shower and I'd, like, go over every conversation I had for the past week, or I would plan out my entire life in a 15-minute shower. And then as content got bigger and the internet got bigger, you know, I send my wife reels all the time, ADHD reels. And people are like, so you mean to tell me you don't do this, this, and this? And I'm like, no, I do that. Like I said to her, like, I'm not a freak. Like some of us are just wired so differently.
Yeah. But I think that we are weird, but it makes us cool. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it helps us. I had a counselor. She's actually coming out to school to work with the leadership in the next couple of weeks, understand neurodivergency better and ADHD and autism and how all that kind of works. Because I want the staff to get it better. I understand a lot of it because I am that. But she had told me that a lot of people can take ADHD and make it into a superpower because we're able to balance and have so many tabs open at once in our brain where most people can't.
Well, it's just one at a time.
Yes. Yeah. Whereas like I try to, there's different tasks that I do in the businesses that I can just do. One of the first big years we got all our accounting done, all that. My wife called, she's like, hey, payroll come back. And I told her I was within, I think, $6,000 of knowing exactly what our payroll was for the year, and I never wrote it down. She actually did the paychecks, but it was always kind of had a running tab in my head of the numbers. And she's like, how the do that? I'm like, I don't know. I was like, I just can multitask all of that, especially when it comes to numbers. I'm not good at math. I never was good at math in school, but I can just keep all those numbers. Like, it was funny because I was like, yeah, we're around like 680,000 for payroll. She's like, yeah, 687 or something like that. She's like, how the hell did you do that? I'm like, well, it's about this much a week. Sorry, she's like, never mind, I shouldn't even ask. Because it was a really confusing way that my brain understood it. Yeah. Now, with that, did you like school? Were you good at school?
I was always really good at school.
Really?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I liked it, but math was never my strong suit, but like reading and writing, and I was always in like honors, and I did like the AP classes and stuff. So yeah, school was always pretty easy for me. But then once I graduated, the thought of college was just like, I did not want to do that, which is why I wanted to go to like a trade school. But yeah, school was never, it was more so the social aspect that I did not like, but the actual schoolwork and stuff was never a big problem for me.
See, I was the opposite. I didn't like school. I didn't like it. I went, definitely didn't like the social aspect. I still don't. I still, like, if we have to do something social for the businesses, like, I can put my happy face on and do it, but there's a lot, I'm like hyping myself up all day, or I'll start feeling bad. My son does the same thing. Like, if we have to do stuff, he's like, man, I got a headache. I'm like, yeah, me too. And it's like, you too.
But I do feel like ADHD and autism is different in men and women. Like, I feel like, I don't know exactly with autism, but I feel like with ADHD, we are able to like sit still more, but it's more crazy inside our brain. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
But
I can watch it on you while we're sitting here.
Yeah. So, but I can sit perfectly still, but my brain's always loud.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to block that out. It's something that I think we just learn to deal with. Everybody has their way of doing it. Mine, I keep myself really busy. It helps my brain go, like, when I don't have a lot to do, I struggle.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same for you.
Complete opposite.
Yeah? Yeah. You're good with downtime, chill,
I don't get my, like, I need, like, one night a week completely to myself, nonverbal, phone on D&D, and just watch my show, play my game, and recoup. But I feel like I do so much driving. I'm working. My son's 7, so I just feel like everything else is chaotic all the time. You know what I mean? And I have to have that like inverted time. Yeah.
A buddy of mine was, he comes out, works with leadership. It's Justin Stewart. He has a guild fellowship, and he was breaking that down the other day. Like, he has to have his morning routine of quiet, because he goes, once it kicks in and my brain starts going, I got to go. And I got to follow where it takes me that day. He goes, we were discussing how both of us are very like, I really like my morning routine. I like to get a little YouTube in, like watching, there's a couple different like car detailing or different things I like to watch while I eat my breakfast. After, the kids have left for school, wife's headed off to her meetings and stuff, or headed down to work in her office, and I can, just kind of do my thing for a little bit. Makes a big difference. Whereas if I get up and just got to hit the ground going that day because there's a bunch of stuff, it will wear on me. And
it's not a good start to the day.
No. And I think that's another thing that brings us back to that entrepreneurship part of we can assess our day or adjust our day accordingly sometimes if we need to. There are times I'm like, oh, I've got to make a change midday, and I'll just stop and take some downtime because I know I've got to be at the dojo that night.
For sure. It's great to be able to do that. And with like my job, my appointments are so quick that a lot of the time I will get downtime in between clients. So I'll get to just like, reset, not have to, because I feel like the hardest part of my job is the talking, and like, especially with new clients, and you have to give the same spiel. I'm sure similar to you with like new students, you have to do the spiel over and over, and that doesn't feel very like genuine.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because it's very robotic, but you have to let them know all of the things.
Yep. You have all your disclaimers. Yep.
And it can be a little exhausting, but it's nice to have that little like reset after like, okay, let me sit for a second, breathe before I take my next one. Super grateful for that.
That's hard. When we do our consults, which you guys will be getting an email on that to come in and talk about like why it move into the next program and stuff. When we do those, I'll do 30-minute sessions all night, and I basically do the same spiel every time. And it's just to go over the program. I want to make sure everybody gets the ins and outs. I want to make sure they all get all the details, and that everybody's given the same fair assessment of what other things that we offer. But I get it. It does it by the time it's exhausting. Like when we get done there at night, I'm like, holy crap, my brain is done. And it's having to be repetitive like that is very hard. I've always noticed that with me. So it's interesting to hear you say that, like giving that boilerplate talk sometimes is rough.
But whenever you have just like normal class with your people and you can just, have fun and do what you like to do, I don't feel nearly as exhausted at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, and you're probably the same as me too. When you get the clients come in that you know and you like and you have a rapport there, it's enjoyable. You enjoy your job. What are your plans down the road? Plans to grow bigger?
Yeah, so eventually my best friend and I would like to have like a street front. I'm not sure where exactly. I love the Kirkwood area. But yeah, we'd like to have that and maybe have a couple employees, a few rooms. It's the goal eventually.
That's awesome.
And then hopefully, when I'm older, be able to just own it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because I feel like the beauty industry, retirement's not really a thing.
No, you need to own and scale and do those things. That's something that I think people forget too when they first get into entrepreneurship. I think a lot of people get into it in the beginning. Some people get into it thinking the plan of selling or scaling or building and not being able to step back. But I think a lot of us get into it because we just want to work for ourselves. And then we realize that, okay, at some point, my body's not going to allow me to do all of this. I'm going to have to learn to manage employees. And like my big thing this year is I track everything we do at the school, all of our systems, all of our orders of operations, everything, because I want to be able to, if for some reason something happened physically and I couldn't teach, I would want to be able to hire instructors and be like, here's everything we do. Break it down A to B. And that's something I've always been really bad at because I always thought I was going to be invincible. And then realizing as you get older, you're like, okay, at some point I'm going to need to have more people.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I can already tell that I have like carpal tunnel in my wrist and my lower back, you know what I mean? And I'm only 32 now. I've got a long ways to go.
Yeah, no. You start noticing once you hit the 30s, that's when I started being more aware of it. And once I crossed over 40, I'm like, oof, okay, I want to make sure that I have plans because I want to be on the mats doing stuff my whole life, but I know I'm not going to be able to teach every class every night. Like I've got to have other things in place.
And then you got to have an income.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so you learn as you grow. So how is it that people can get hold of you? What is the best ways to find you, book you? And if somebody, when they hear this, they want to reach out.
Instagram at Wax by Ashley. My website is waxbyashley.glossgenius.com to make an appointment. And yeah, you can just send me a DM on Instagram, really. I have a Facebook page, but I don't use that quite as much as Instagram.
Seems like Instagram's really popular right now. Like I just did a thing for DECA at the high school, and some of the teens that I was talking to were like, what's your Instagram? I'm like, well, it's Boyer Academy. And they're like, okay, cool. I'm like, well, I have a Facebook, Matthew Boyer. They're like, no.
Yeah.
They just Instagram for everything. I was
Facebook
like, okay.
is kind of phasing out, I think.
Well, I think it's your 40 and up crowd are still on it, but I think everybody else is very big on Instagram and anything that's more reels related. Gary Vee's got a book he talks about with a lot of the platforms are doing more For You pages where you can search out content differently. It's a little bit different of a faster paced media these days.
Yeah. I'm not great with technology at all, but I want to learn how to do TikTok so bad because I feel like you can find a lot more. That's where everybody is.
Yes.
Is on TikTok, but making them is so confusing.
You know, it's not that bad. It took me a while to learn it, but I've gotten much better. Like the studio here edits all the reels, all the really nice stuff you see, but like I make a lot of my own stuff. It's not too bad. I haven't figured out like splicing, like making some of the really creative, fun stuff, like anytime there's a viral trend, but just making some simple things isn't too bad. I got a couple different apps I can show you that's pretty user friendly for decent stuff. And right now it seems like too, a lot of people are going back to more of the organic content too.
Yeah.
Like just cell phone videos. I was just telling them before you got here, I'm getting ready to order a different camera. It's a creator camera because I've got so many speaking events this month. I'm tired of putting them on my phone and trying to get it all off my phone. I'm just going to do the camera and hook it right into my computer.
That's a smart idea.
Just because I don't want to lose the stuff. I've got so much. I was like, they actually might have one laying on the table. They got a couple of them up here. But great. Well, I appreciate you coming on today. We'll put all your stuff in it, tag you and everything so people can find you and see you. And good luck. I hope it works out and keeps growing and doing good.
Thank you.
Sweet.